You're thinking, Alexandria, it looks like it's a little bit dark outside. You're a little sweaty. You look kind of weathered. It's because today's video was shot on the same day as last week's video. As I mentioned, I am trying my hardest to bust through this build as quickly as I can because I do have some trips planned and I'm going out to Colorado in early to mid-May for my brother's graduation, and so I do have a bit of a timeline, and while I'm not expecting to finish every single thing in this bus in 5.5 weeks, I would like to get as close as I freaking can, which means I need to keep working. In today's video, I am going to be tackling or starting to tackle my subfloor. It is already 6 p.m. and so I'm gonna try to work for another 1.5 to 2 hours tonight, which is probably going to look like planning, pre-cutting, and just starting to lay some things out. I think I'll probably wait until tomorrow to start to actually secure stuff to the floor, but we'll see how far I get. It should be pretty straightforward. I've done this once before and I'm hoping it goes even faster since I have very nice square walls in here. So let's get into it. There are a couple different ways to lay a subfloor, and considering mine or the shape of the floor that was pre-existing in the bus, I decided that framing it out was going to be best, especially considering the thickness of the strapping and polyiso board that I'm going to be using. To hopefully further minimize thermal bridging, I added these strips of adhesive rubber to the bottom of all of the framing, again just in hopes of preventing as much of that heat-cold transfer or temperature transfer as I could into my floor. Now these straps are only 3/4 of an inch thick, which meant that I had to use 3/4 inch thick polyiso board. It's definitely not as thick as I would have liked or as thick as I had in my van, but because the interior of this bus is only 6 foot high at its tallest, preserving headspace was definitely my top consideration, especially when you think about where heat and cold is definitely lost or gained in a bus, which is typically through the windows and the roof. And so my thought was, you know, you can lose some on the floor, but make sure that you insulate your ceiling well and invest in some good window covers. Good morning, everybody. Today is a very exciting day because I'm about to turn this big yellow school bus into something a little bit less yellow. Now, today I am just hitting the roof because it's supposed to rain tomorrow, believe it or not, even though the skies are blue and clear and everything is looking nice. I need to get this roof painted or sealed. I'm using Henry's Durabright. I went with the Durabright over the Tropicool, which is a very popular choice for a couple of reasons that I'll explain later on in the video, but that is a goal today because I need that painted so I can put in my Skylight and my maxxair fan, which are two very large holes that are currently in my roof that need to no longer be there. So that's the goal for today, is to get the Durabright up on the roof, to get it nice and white, looking clean, because right now the whole bus is yellow, and then to install the Skylight and maxxair fan. Now, as I mentioned, I went with the Henry's Durabright over the Tropicool for two main reasons. One, I think the most obvious factor is cost here. I am trying to keep this build as budget friendly as possible, and Durabright is only about $23 at my local hardware store as compared to the Tropicool, which was, I believe, $130. And considering I needed almost 2.5 of these gallons, it really would have added up in the long run, and so I'm super happy for budget, if nothing else, that I went for the Durabright. Second is how easy it goes on. Tropicool is extremely thick, and while they're both elastomeric, Durabright is a little bit thinner, paints on a little bit easier, especially in tight areas like my gutters. Guys, so I am making an executive decision because the clouds are starting to come in. I am almost out of paint. Everything that I've read and seen people say or do is that they only need 1 gallon usually for a short bus, and sometimes they even have extra. Well, I don't know if I'm just going heavy on it. I don't think so because you can still see the yellow on my roof, but I am nearly out of paint, which means I have to get more, but also that I don't have a lot of time. And so I'm gonna focus on the priority today, which is getting my roof sealed, getting these holes closed up, which means that I need to use the remainder of my paint to seal the immediate areas around these holes. let's finish this thing. Hi, bad YouTuber here. I was able to get 2 coats of paint on the roof. It is getting a little cooler and windier though, so I think I'm gonna call it good for now. And so now the goal is, 'cause it's already 4 o'clock, to patch these 2 holes. I already started on the front one, as you can see. It is ready to pop this guy in, make sure it fits. It should. It's just a 14 by 14 hole, and screw it in place. This wind is getting bad. Alright you guys, with the bit of time and camera battery, I think I have 2% left, that I have, I'm gonna try to explain my skylight because I do think that it's pretty unique. I have seen one other person do it, which is where I got the idea. I can't remember their channel right now. It's Backroad or Background something. I'll leave it in the description down below because this is not my idea. But essentially what I did was just get a 1/4 inch piece thick clear acrylic, and this is essentially going to just be a makeshift skylight. I knew that I wanted more light in here. Yes, there are a lot of windows, but direct overhead light definitely hits different than these side windows do. And so I originally was thinking about putting in a hatch, like a pre-made, really nice marine or RV hatch. The problem is the ones that were in stock, there were cheaper ones, but the ones in stock that I could get on my timeline were like $700, which is ridiculous if you ask me. So this will not be a hatch, it will not open. Yes, I could take the time to do that, but with the weather coming and my plans, it just doesn't make sense. I can replace this, so maybe I'll put a hatch in the future, but for right now, this is my makeshift budget skylight. This piece of acrylic cost about $64, and all I'm gonna do, I already have the hole up above, is make sure this fits. I just cut it down on the table saw. It's about 27.5 inches by 30, so it's quite large. And this is going to be sealed on the sides with beetle tape, as well as lap sealant and silicone around all of the hex head screws that will hold it in place. On the inside, when I put in my ceiling, I will trim it out so it looks a lot nicer. For now, it's just gonna be a piece of acrylic that is covering the hole in my ceiling. I am seeing now I have 0% battery. I'm gonna install this and I will likely see you guys tomorrow. Well, that was probably a terrible transition because it has honestly been 2 or 3 days since I've recorded, and I completely forget what I recorded last time I was on here. So later today, what I'm planning on doing is tackling the rest of this electrical, which is honestly really overwhelming. This is what we're dealing with. It's really overwhelming, and all of these wires lead down into the engine bay, to the back of the bus, just everywhere, and it has really been stressing me out, like to the point of just not doing it at all. My goal is just to make sure that it's safe, to make sure that any electrical connections that are disconnected on both ends are just removed to make that rat's nest a little bit more manageable, and to make sure that I'm not putting myself or Tara in any danger in being in here. Alright, so I'm about 2/3 of the way done right now, and I think I should be feeling more overwhelmed than I am, because right now, this is how things are looking. Kind of a disaster. But what you didn't see was how it looked before, and this is a massive improvement. I did not think that this would go this fast, and I'm gonna knock on wood because I always say that and then something goes wrong. But so far, so good. The van still starts, the turn signals still work. I think we are on a roll. I'm hoping to be done with this tonight. Fingers crossed, that was a terrible crossed fingers. And to start doing some more of the strapping because, as I said, all of my insulation came in today. So that's the goal for the weekend. It's gonna rain tonight, so I'm trying to get as much of this done and out of the bus as possible so I can get all the wood that I need in here to start working on the rest of the build. So that's the plan for the rest of today. I think I'm gonna end the video here. Thank you guys for watching this week. As always, so happy to have you here. I hope that you enjoyed. This week was brief at best because, as you can see, I've been getting a lot done. I've been planning a lot. I've also been working. So it's just been quite the week, but super excited I've made the progress that I have, and even more excited to see where we get next week. So stick around and I will see you guys next Sunday.